Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Mark D. Heilong. My name is Mark Donaldson, my Chinese name is Heilong, and today we're going to go into part 4 of my Nutritarian Lunch and Learn session on why I became a vegan. And today we're going to talk about protein and amino acids, so all about protein and amino acids. So let's begin. Let me zoom in here. All right. So we're going to do a recap of part 3 of this 6-part series. So what is the alkaline acid alkaline balance in our bodies? We discussed that, and looking back at what our ancestor ate. They ate an abundance of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, a diet high in organic mineral compounds, especially dark leafy greens. Eating plant-based foods regularly and in abundance maintained a healthy acid-alkaline balance in our bodies, in particular after we eat them or after we ate them. The plant-based diet helped prevent sicknesses and diseases from spreading in our bodies and within our species. The book, The Acid Alkaline Food Guide by Dr. Susan E. Brown, is the point of research for this presentation, along with some others. And basically, we are what we eat. A healthy body will maintain a narrow pH balance throughout the day in our blood, tissues, and bodily fluids. pH stands for potential for hydrogen, which was defined in 1909 by Danish scientist Soren P.L. Sorensen. pH is a measurement used to determine the concentration of hydrogen ions in a fluid. So the more hydrogen you have equals the more acid the solution, and of course the vice versa is true where it's more alkaline. So the pH scale ranges between 0 to 14, where 7 on the scale is neutral, 0 is extremely acidic, and 14 is extremely alkaline. So we can test our pH level in our bodies by using hydrogen paper or pH paper or litmus paper, as we used to use in a chemistry class in high school. How do we test? We usually test after 6 hours of sleep via the urine stream or sample, or you can test it in saliva under your tongue. Of course, your mouth shouldn't be tainted with like after brushing your teeth. You want to do this very first thing in the morning to do the test with pH paper. It's very easy to buy. It's very cheap. You can buy it on Amazon or any health nutrition store will sell pH paper. You basically cut a little strip off, you put it on your tongue or put it in the stream of your urine, and you can measure your pH balance that way. The pH test is used to determine our acidity or alkalinity after homeostasis. So homeostasis is when our body has reached a certain level of stasis or a lack of change. So typically after we sleep 6 to 8 hours, our body's been pretty much in a single state for a considerable amount of time, and it's good to do the pH test after that. Now, you can do it during the day between activities, of course, but a more accurate uh, test would be after you sleep. So when we are too acidic, the following happens. We pull from our bones vital minerals like calcium and magnesium to maintain pH balance, neutral of 7. We also, the depletion of bone minerals will move on to secondary sources like muscles and tissues. So the wasting of our muscles and tissues and tendons and joints and ligaments and so on. They pretty much start to dissolve in our bodies if we're too acidic. Arthritis and degenerative illnesses are the results. So massive degeneration of load-bearing joints, the knees, hips, elbows, anything you use repetitively will start to pretty much disintegrate and waste away. So how can we prevent pH imbalance and high acidity? Well, the negative effects of high acidity is usually driven by the standard Western diet. Um, the positive effects of neutral acidity is eating a nutrient-rich diet full of plant-based foods, especially dark leafy green vegetables and cruciferous vegetables and so on. So, and then we discussed how to maintain a healthy pH balance. So we can prevent pH imbalance and high acidity by eating a healthy plant-based whole foods diet of many different plant-based sources. So, the protein question, I get this one as a vegan a lot. So, where do you get your protein? And It's usually the first question I get from people. So, how do you eat enough protein? So, what is protein? So, let's go to the definition. So, protein is any group of complex organic macromolecules that contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and usually sulfur, and are composed of one or more chains of amino acids. Proteins are the fundamental components of all living cells and include many substances such as enzymes, hormones, and antibodies that are necessary for the proper functioning of an organism. Proteins are essential in the diet of animals for the growth and repair of tissue and can be obtained from foods such as meat, fish, eggs, milk, and legumes. Of course, they forgot fruit and vegetables, and especially nuts. But I guess the lobbyists may have gotten there first, right? So the protein myth. The protein myth. You need to eat lots of protein to stay healthy. Well, that's a big fat lie. That's a huge myth. Of course, we're indoctrinated by our parents, and our parents were indoctrinated by their parents, and so on and so on. And we're indoctrinated since childhood. We're programmed over and over and over again. You need to eat lots of protein to grow healthy and strong. And foods that help us grow bigger, faster are good for us. This is the other big myth or the big lie. Rapid psychological growth was equated with good health, which is also a lie. And I debunk these as we go along. So the protein myth has been debunked throughout scientific research again and again and again. So slower growth and taking longer to maturity equals the prediction of a longer life in animal studies. So the longer any organism takes to reach maturity is the longer the life of that organism has on this planet, especially with mammals. So everything happens in its own due time, and the longer that time takes, based on the proclivity of that organism or species, is the longer it tends to survive or to thrive or to live. The rapid growth and premature puberty are risk factors for cancers and other diseases, later in life. So that's been shown that rapid growth and premature puberty, including obesity in a young age, has shown to have a higher proclivity of people coming down with type 1 or type 2 diabetes in adulthood. Excluding malnutrition, the slower we grow and mature, the longer we live. So puberty onset age has dropped from 18 to 12 in females within the last 20 years, and sometimes that number is now around 10 to 8, well, 10 to 9 years old that I've seen. So animal protein. Scientists have linked animal protein consumption to cancer in both laboratory and human epidemiological studies, notably the China study. Several different types of cancers linked to animal protein consumption were noted. Vegetarians are found to have 50% less incidence of colon and rectal cancers in European studies. We eat what the animals and the fish eat, undiluted, one to one. So if the animals and fish are eating toxic um, contaminants in the environment, then they store it in their bodies and in their tissues. And when you consume those animal products, you pretty much eat them undiluted. So, for example, with fish, they have traces of magnesium and heavy metals like lead. And if you eat the fish, you do get the trace amounts of those heavy metals in eating those animals. It is virtually impossible to control all environmental toxins to reduce their occurrence in animal products we consume for meats and fish. Yes, this is very true. They are a byproduct of their environment, and what they consume, humans consume. And that food chain continues. If the animals and fish consume toxins in their environment, then humans in turn eat those animals and consume those toxins too. We change the molecular structure when we cook meats and fish prior to consumption and ingestion. So the act of cooking our meat, frying it, roasting it, heating it at a certain temperature for a period of time, and then consuming it is the change of the molecular structure. So this change leads to the release of further chemical compounds that are linked directly to cancers. A lot of people like eating red meat, charred red meat, barbecued red meat, things like heavily processed meats like um, uh, jerk meat, and so on, which have a lot of chemicals that are added to them to preserve those meats, especially mass production. And these have been shown correlation leading to causation in the cause of cancer. So, what's with all the doom and gloom around animal protein? Let's enjoy a juicy steak fired up on the grill. Well, it's about awareness of the decades of research studies conducted around the world by research scientists. It is being informed about what your doctor or Health Canada or health government health agency won't tell you when you become ill after years of consuming animal-based products. In other words, these research studies are suppressed by your government and your doctor especially. It's also about lobbyists who put their financial interests first to sustain profits, like the old Canada Food Guide. So this is keep in mind this is 2013, so a lot of these things have since improved, especially the Canada Food Guide. Through awareness, you have choice. So trivia time, true or false? Question: vegetarians need to combine complementary proteins at every meal. True or false? This is still true because they predominantly get plant-based sources. However, if they consume a lot of milk and dairy, those are pretty much all 20 essential amino acids, then they won't need to do that. But they should combine complementary proteins, at least at every meal or at every other meal. So true or false? Your body will use protein as fuel if you do not eat enough carbohydrates. That is true. Yes, that is very true. Um, all right, let's go on to the next one. So, how much animal protein should we eat per serving? Any portion equivalent to the size of a full deck of cards or enough to fit in the palm of your hand should be the amount of animal-based protein you should consume. So if you look at the palm of your hand, if it fits within the palm of your hand, then that should be a roughly enough protein, animal protein per serving. You don't need much. So how should we prepare animal protein? So animal protein should be prepared, it should be thoroughly cooked throughout, but not burnt or charred. Remember, cooking is the start of digestion for consuming meat. It should really prefer to be steamed or boiled if possible, like especially fish and chicken. Um, it should be done or consumed or eaten with a healthy side of vegetables or green to promote digestion and motility, which is good old fiber. Should be meat's best friend forever. And also consuming it with greens helps create a pH neutral acidity in your body upon consumption and digestion. So how much protein should we consume? We should consume approximately 0.8 milligrams of protein per kilogram of body weight as the recommended daily allowance by the National Institute of Health in the US. And of course, just slightly less for females than males due to less muscle mass. Active individuals and athletes should increase to 1.2 milligrams per kilogram. This is from Dr. Joel from his research. So how do we determine if we have enough protein? Nitrogen level tests are used to determine protein loss rates. This test is derived from research studies. It is a fairly accurate measurement of protein requirements for the average human. So you can go into more detail from the references that I'll show at the end of the presentation. So what are healthy sources of protein? Vegetables, fruits, beans, and nuts are good plant-based sources of proteins. What are some complete protein sources as it relates to plants, which contains all essential amino acids? So that would include soya or tofu, including tempeh, hemp seeds, spirulina, quinoa, amaranth, and buckwheat, to name some. So what are amino acids? So we start with the definition. Amino acids are organic compounds that are the building blocks of protein, which is essentially the building blocks of life. Amino acids are classified as essential or non-essential amino acids. So we have 20 amino acids are essential to build our human bodies. We synthesize 11 in the human body. In other words, the body produces them internally, but we require 9 essential amino acids from our diets that we eat. So we need to find or consume the 9 essential amino acids externally from our bodies, so from plants and the dietary substances that we eat. So, true or false? The World Health Organization considered farming seaweed due to its high rate of regeneration and complete protein and nutritional content to combat malnutrition around the world. Yes, this is true. So, how old do you think lifelong vegan bodybuilder Jim Morris is? 31, 41, 51, 61, or 71? Well, in this picture, he's actually 71 years old, believe it or not. Absolutely incredible. So, on a plant-based diet, he has great muscle tone, muscle definition. He has good balanced hormone levels for his age, and his muscles don't deplete by eating an acidic based diet. And of course, he's also very lean on a plant-based diet. So, what do amino acids do for us? They are the building blocks of all life forms as we know it on Earth. They build protein molecules used to build hair, teeth, bones, skin, and every organ in our body. Consuming a complete protein means consuming all 20 essential amino acids throughout the day. Now, you don't have to consume all 20 at every meal. You can have some in one meal and some in the next meal, but the total combined amino acids should be all 20 for at any given day. So, what are the results of consuming all essential amino acids through a nutrient-rich plant-based diet? Your hair grows thicker and longer. Your nails grow stronger and less brittle. I can certainly attest to that. And you can see my nails, they're very, very clear, no white spots, no cracks, no nothing. Also, your cuts heal faster. That was one of the very first things that I realized as a vegan. My cuts healed in days instead of maybe a week to 2 weeks. It was super fast healing. Physical endurance is increased due to more rapid healing from consuming all essential proteins on a daily basis. So, Rich Roll did the Ultra Ironman or Ultraman, and he I forget what it was, 140 or 100 back-to-back triathlons in a year. Unbelievable. And that was one of the things that I noticed on a plant-based diet is anytime I did a super hardcore workout like a run or a swim run or a swim bike or a run bike, I pretty much the next day I was almost fully recovered. 2 days fully recovered. The other thing is your eyesight improves. I noticed that my eyesight did improve on a plant-based diet. We also become more resistant and less susceptible to recurrence of diseases. Yes, I noticed that while other people were falling down around me at the office, I was pretty resilient. Like I didn't get a cold like many people did around me. Also, we slow down the aging process through controlled and full cellular regeneration. So when we eat a plant-based diet, we're able to not only slow down the aging process by replenishing our cells, but because we have a lot of fiber and we become more efficient, we're also able to flush cells from our body. So it's really about maintaining a peak efficiency of flushing the dead cells and also replenishing the living cells. We also have fewer muscle and joint tears and strains for athletes. That's one thing I noticed. A lot of people in my age group, I'm now 40, 47, going on 48. A lot of the men especially had like their torn Achilles, they torn this, torn that, a lot of tears. But no, I could run and do half marathons and I was fine. And also we become stronger physically. And one of the interesting side effects of a plant-based diet is you become physically stronger, but your muscle mass, your muscle size, I should say, becomes a bit smaller. And the reason for that is that your bone, muscle, joint, and tendon density is higher. So even though you may look a little bit slimmer, a little bit smaller, your strength goes up about 5 to 10% greater in a leaner package because you're more dense tissues, muscles, bones, teeth, and everything on a plant-based diet. You're just more efficient. So let's see. All of our posts. So we'll cover fats. So the good. So in the next talk we will cover the good, the bad, and the omega threes. So questions in part five. So and then part six will be vegan meal planning. So I'll do a discussion. Part seven was a Q&A, but here are the references. So Dr. Joel Furman's book, Fasting and Eating for Health, Eat to Live, and also Rich Roll's book, Finding Ultra. We also have Dr. Susan Brown's book, The Acid Alkaline Food Guide, and Brendan Brazier's book, Whole Foods to Thrive. And this is based on a good book about plant-based recipes for peak health. And here's another reference, Human Protein Requirements, Nitrogen Balance, from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And some YouTube channels. Some of these are still around, some may be dated. And some website references. Well, thank you so much for watching part four. I hope you liked it. If you did like it, please give me a like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. And if you really found it valuable, please take a moment to share it with your family and friends who may benefit from my research and the advice that I've given. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one.